everybody, Shwazy here, and in today's video, we're with the brand new 2023 Honda HR-V. It's newly restyled for the 2023 model year, and we're gonna give you a quick overview of the outside, inside, and talk about the features and specs that you may want to know if you're considering this as your next vehicle. Now, before we get started, I do want to give a huge thank you to the Rocky Mountain Automotive Press for giving us the opportunity to review all of these vehicles. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get all of the vehicles in today's event on camera, but this was an awesome event, and I'm going to put their information down below so you guys can reach out to them if you have any questions. And also a huge thank you to the manufacturers and press vehicles that were out at today's event for giving us the opportunity to sit behind the wheel and really test drive these vehicles. Okay, so the Honda HR-V is actually a subcompact crossover. So this is smaller than the Honda CR-V or the Toyota RAV4. It's kind of a new-ish segment to the industry, and the Toyota Corolla Cross is kind of a competitor, and this vehicle is newly restyled as of 2023, and I gotta say, I really like the updated styling. I personally didn't really like the look of the previous generation. I thought it was a little odd looking, especially from the back with its rear tail lights. This to me looks much more refined, much more elegant, very similar to the new Civic. It's kind of a grown-up version of the previous generation. But Honda actually calls this a gateway vehicle into the Honda brand. They expect that if people start with this, they may upgrade to a CR-V or a Pilot in the future. And I think that's true, and I think they really did a really good job, especially when we jump inside. I'll show you what that looks like. This thing is supposed to be a little bit more fun to drive, a little bit more sporty, and I think they accomplished that even with the exterior styling. So this thing is about 3 inches wider and about 2 inches longer in its wheelbase. But in terms of overall length, this is actually about 9 inches longer than the previous generation, which is a significant amount of size. This is probably the same size of the original Honda CR-V or the second gen Honda CR-V, and now this is considered a subcompact, which is kind of funny. This does kind of have a long hood and like a low belt line, so they designed it specifically to be a little bit more sporty and athletic as compared to the previous generation. Now, in terms of platform, this is kind of a mix of different vehicles. It's part Civic, part CR-V, and part HR-V distinct, whereas the previous version was built on the Honda Fit platform. So that's why this thing is going to ride a little bit differently than the previous generation. Now, Honda does use kind of this cool honeycomb mesh throughout the inside and outside of the vehicle, and I'll show you what that looks like on the inside in a minute, but I really like the utilization of the honeycomb. Kind of adds to the styling, and I will say these rear LED lights look really nice when they're lit up at night. Obviously, you can't tell during the day, but with the addition of the piano black plastic and this specific color and the headlights and taillights, I really think this is a more striking vehicle than the previous generation. Now, before we jump inside, let's talk about powertrain. This is a different engine than the previous gen. Previous one came with a 1.8 liter. This one is a 2 liter 4-cylinder engine that produces 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque. I do wish it had some sort of turbocharger or something like that to make it a little bit peppier, but this is the only engine you can get regardless of what trim level you choose. Now, all of that power is sent through a CVT transmission. Now, I know most people don't like CVTs, but that is pretty commonplace for vehicles of this segment. Now, I will note there is a lot of space located under the hood, so I wonder if they'll ever make anything more powerful than this, but it's doubtful because the market for this vehicle doesn't really need a super powerful engine. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about the engine is fuel economy, because that is important. You get 26 in the city and 32 on the highway for a combined 28 if you choose the front-wheel drive version. If you choose the all-wheel drive, you're going to be at 25 in the city, 30 on the highway for a combined 27. So really good gas mileage out of this small 2-liter engine. Okay, now let's jump inside, and I think that's really where this vehicle punches above its weight, or at least above what I would expect. Starting off with the door panel, this is actually a soft touch material. It's like an injection molded plastic. This is, however, hard touch, but where you're resting your elbow will be soft touch. This is obviously a soft touch. This is actually a leather material. This is, just so you're aware, the top of the line trim. It's the EXL, and I'll talk about pricing here in just a minute. You do have hard touch plastic, but they have this kind of textured rib design. Honda says they designed it this way to hide scratches a little bit better and make it a little bit more durable. Now, coming inside, this vehicle has really nice interior. So this is leather seats. It does have a little bit of contrast stitching with this kind of white or gray stitching to it. Looks really nice. Seats are very comfortable. They redesigned them for this new HR-V. And then climbing inside is where you'll really notice a difference difference compared to the previous gen. This is very Honda Civic-like. The new Civic has this same type of honeycomb mesh, and Honda says this is actual real aluminum. So it does feel pretty sturdy. It definitely doesn't feel cheap. So very nice there. And this is a soft touch material. In fact, this entire dashboard is that injection molded soft plastic. So really nice job there. And I gotta say, the interior is kind of reminiscent of Mazda in a way, but I would even say maybe more refined. Starting off with the steering wheel, it's really nice to hold, leather wrapped. You've got your volume controls here on the left, and then you've got your cruise control over here on the right. You do also have a digital display. Now, Honda says this is a 7-inch display, and as you can see, it's actually digital on the left, and then it's just analog on the right, which is okay for a vehicle of this segment. You're not expecting an all digital display on a vehicle of this price point. You got push button start. Now this vehicle comes with the 9-inch screen. I believe if you pick the more affordable version, it's going to be an 8-inch screen, but nonetheless, still a decent size, especially for a vehicle of this price point. Really nice functionality here. It's a quick to use screen. Another thing to mention about the software on the center display is you're probably not going to use it that often because this vehicle does have wired or wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, depending on what trim and spec you get. You do only have just one angle for the rear camera, which is standard amongst vehicles in the subcompact segment. Again, a little bit more of that nice aluminum, and it really looks good. It's like the vent is integrated into the molding. And then coming further down, these switches are surprisingly really nice. I think they're plastic, but just the way they click and the way they feel in the hand, they feel durable. They don't feel flimsy, but this is your climate control settings down here. You do have dual zone climate control. You also have heated seats, but there is no ventilated seat option. Now coming further down, you do have your wireless charging pad over here, a USB port to charge devices, 2 cup holders going further down, and then this whole center console, which actually has a pass-through, which is quite interesting. I haven't seen that before. This is all leather wrapped, so really nice materials here. You've got a leather wrapped shifter, although I will say, based on the angle of the armrest on the shifter, it does seem like it's kind of high, a little bit too tall. Even though I like traditional shifters, this thing kind of seems like it should be a little bit lower, but that's just personal preference. You got your drive modes over here, which you pretty much just have eco, snow, and normal. Then you've got your electronic parking brake. You do also have hill descent control here, which is kind of odd to see on a compact crossover. And then just a narrow but very deep center arm console, so you could fit lots of stuff there. Again, very, very nice material, very soft leather over here. And then going over to the passenger side, similar use of materials, nice leather seats. And you know, it is a small cabin. This is a subcompact crossover, so keep that in mind. This isn't going to have the same type of room that a lot of modern CR-Vs and RAV4s have. But now let's jump into the second row and show you what that looks like. Okay, this is where you can see they cut a little bit of cost. This is hard touch plastic along with this, but you do have soft touch material on the door. Coming in, the seats are just as nice as the front row. You still have that contrast stitching, looks really nice. One complaint I do have, there is no center armrest. I don't see that here. And the only cup holders you get are just in the door. So Honda says there's 6 cup holders. There's obviously 2 over there. There's 2 more in the door pockets, and then just 2 in the back seats. And there's no rear air vents, which it's fine, but this is the most top of the line version, so I would expect it to have maybe some more amenities there, although I will mention you do get a sunroof, which is pretty nice to have. Honestly, for this being a subcompact, legroom is phenomenal. I mean, it's a little bit lower to the ground. My knees are probably a little bit closer to my chest, but still a very comfortable place to sit. This is definitely a much bigger improvement than some of the compact crossovers of the past. I mean, they did a fantastic job here. And then in terms of headroom, I've got plenty of headroom. So really comfortable cabin in the back. I'm actually really surprised about that because I thought it'd be smaller. You do have this little light here that's kind of touch sensitive. That's pretty cool. Looks like an airplane light. But other than that, nice place to sit. You got some more speakers down here and just a little cubby. Regarding the speakers, you do get 4 speakers on the base LX model and 8 speakers on this EXL version. Now let's show you what the trunk space looks like. Okay, now popping open the trunk, obviously it's not power, but that's not really common amongst vehicles of this price point. You do get 24.4 cubic feet of space back here with the seats up. And I gotta say, it's actually a pretty large space. I don't really know how they packaged it so well. You get a little bit more of that rib material, and then you actually do have a 12-volt outlet back here. So really fun packaging, really good job here. The fact that this is a subcompact crossover and it has so much interior room, you know, Honda does a great job at accomplishing those types of things. Making it small on the outside but big on the inside is really their MO, and they succeeded again with this vehicle. Now let's talk about pricing. So the LX, which is the base version, starts at just shy of $24,000. The Sport, which actually has a really cool looking interior and kind of has some contrast stitching, that might be the mass selling version of this vehicle. That one starts at just shy of $26,000. And this EXL version, the top of the line, that one starts at $27,500. Now, if you want all-wheel drive with any of those trims, that's about $1,500 extra. Now, that's really not a bad price considering the average vehicle nowadays is over $40,000. You can still get a brand new HR-V with lots of interior amenities, great safety features. These all come with the Honda Sensing as standard, and really good fuel economy and a comfortable ride for pretty much less than $30,000. In case you're wondering, this one in particular is $30,590. So really a great value, and I imagine Honda is going to sell even more of these than the previous generation. Okay, well there you have the quick overview of the 2023 Honda HR-V. Let me know what you think about this subcompact crossover and whether you would choose this over the competition and why down in the comments below. And if this is your first time stopping by, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly videos. And as always, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day.